Hey, Steve Gamache here with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product video, and we are looking at the Yoshimune white number 1 Gyuto 2 10mm knife. This knife has a core steel of Shirogami or white paper number 1 reactive carbon steel. The heat treat's about 61 Rockwell on that carbon steel. The construction is a very interesting patterned stainless steel cladding on either side of that core steel, and you can really see the delineation line between the grind where the core steel comes out on the edge, so lower maintenance because of all that stainless cladding. It's a really interesting looking knife. The weight of the knife is 5.9 ounces, 167 grams, so it's got some heft to it. I did play with this blade a fair amount, and I really like it the way it handles, and I like the heft. It gives you a reassuring feel to the knife. The blade length is about 215 on tip to heel on this example, or tip to chin back here, and the overall length is about 14.3. The spine thickness above the chin here is about 3.4 millimeters, and it thins out pretty quickly after that to 2 or so millimeters, and then holds that most of the way through till you hit the distal taper at the grind of the knife down here. And this knife has a pretty generous grind to it, almost halfway up the blade in some places, and which makes for a pretty thin tip that works pretty well in performance-wise. The height on this blade is about 51 millimeters. And the handle type is a D-shaped, basic, nothing special, kind of smoked magnolia wood, plastic ferrule. There's a bit of a step right here between the wood and the ferrule. You can feel it, but if you use a pinch grip, you're not there too much anyway with your hands. The circumference about 3 inches on it. Again, the handle's nothing special. The performance of the knife is very, very good. The fit and finish is nice. It's got enough relief on the choil imoto here and also the spine. Out of the box edge was 5, maybe 6 out of 10. It was pretty sharp, had a little bit of bite to it, but this is white number 1, so I took it to the stones very briefly, and man, this thing sharpened up quick because white number 1 sharpens very, very easily, and it takes a wicked edge. The knife is a really good all-around performer. I really enjoyed using it. The shape of the tip is almost reminiscent of a funayuki, so it's got a nice pointed tip for detail work. And let's take a closer look at this blade. This has a very interesting pattern on the knife flats, and it's almost like a pressed wood kind of look to it. There's some kanji on the blade, and it's a really cool effect. It's a neat, and that texture can help aid a little bit in food release. It's a very pretty blade. The profile on the knife looks like this, so it's got a bit of a flat spot towards the heel, not a whole lot, and then kind of a continuous curve all the way into the tip off of that. Here is the choil shot, and it's fairly thin at the edge. This knife is quite a good performer. It's not a true laser, but it's a very impressive all-around performer. I very much enjoyed using this knife. As I said before, the heft of this knife is really kind of nice. I really thought that it aids a little bit in chopping power and just kind of gives you a reassuring feel on the board. As you can tell, I enjoyed this knife probably as much as any. This is one of my favorite knives out of the whole batch, so that I have this time. But here's what it looks like on the board. So it rolls into a bit of a flat spot. There's a little bit of a back kind of relief back there. You could easily flatten that out just a touch and have a longer flat spot on this blade. It would not take much at all to flatten it out and then resharpen it. But not a huge amount of belly up front, but let's see, I can get right in here before I start digging the tip in. Start digging the tip in about right there. Real nice flow into that back heel part of the blade, and again, you could put a little bit longer flat spot on this by tweaking the grind about right there just a touch. But very pleasurable to use on the board. Balance point. The handle's really light, so the balance point was right about there, and my pinch grip is slightly behind that, so it gives you a little bit of a weight to it. If you had a custom handle with a little more weight, it would bring that balance point back. I did notice on the site the neck on these looks a little different from knife to knife, so this has a nice rustic presentation, but it's still quite comfortable. The neck's got a little bit of width to it, but very, very comfortable in the hand. So again, I was just really nicely impressed with this knife. It cut well. It feels good in the hand. It's cool looking. Not super uber expensive, so really cool offering from Mark. So there you have the Yoshimune white number 1 Gyuto 2 10mm knife.